What's up, guys? It's MENES back again with another video. Today, we're talking about something very close to my heart. It's in my goddamn name of my channel. The NES. Now you're like, what is this? Well, this is my collection log of the NES. I cataloged all of my stories of going on my adventures to collect every NES game in these two journals. Right here. As you can see, it took me from 8/31/2013 to 10/23/2018. And that final time of collecting, the very last convention I went to, I got, of course, Little Samson. It was one of the very last games I ever got. Also, though, who sold me 20 of, 23 last games that I needed was Retro Game Trader in Beaverton, Oregon there. Notably... Wait. No, I don't think any of these, but I just brought out some games because I wanted to show. We're talking about Nintendo Quest, by the way. The whole premise of the movie is to do what I did over the course of 5 years in 30 days. And when I first saw the premise for this movie as a trailer, as I was searching up random NES YouTube videos just to get my fix of more NES content, I thought it was an April Fool's joke. I thought there's no way anybody could do this or could be serious about doing this all in 30 days. I thought it was a really cool, put together trailer for the internet. And then I found out they were really doing this. This was going to be a real movie. I was super excited. I went and backed it as soon as I could. I followed it all the way through. But when I found that trailer, it seriously had very little, it's 10 views or something. It was really underground at the time, and that's why I thought it was a prank. I thought, this can't be real, that somebody's actually gonna attempt this back in 2015 when the movie freaking came out, and I thought I saw the trailer in probably 2012 or 2013. It was probably in 2013 or 2014 because that's kind of when I was really getting into all of this. So originally it was called the NES Club, based on a thing that they talk about at the beginning of the movie there, but I wanted to talk about a little bit of my experience collecting NES, and you might have seen that, heard about that throughout the channel before. I used to do videos about showing off new things I would add to my backlog and new pickups and stuff, and I don't really do those anymore, but I love the NES. I think it's one of the greatest consoles of all time. And I did have a complete collection. I finished the collection, but I also realized that the physical games didn't always mean as much to me as just having the games to play. And so I kind of had to sell a few, or wanted to sell a few, There's some few notable ones in there I probably wouldn't have sold on repeat, like Panic Restaurant and stuff, but especially with the freaking whole story with that and the screws being too tight or whatever. That whole fucking stupid thing. Anyway, but as you can see, I still kept some real gems like Little Samson. I don't think I am ever gonna probably get rid of this. I did get rid of Flintstones, because that one didn't mean as much to me, but playing Little Samson through, I kind of realized how good of a game Little Samson is, and it's kind of the holy grail of Nintendo collecting outside of stadium events, which I don't even really count towards the personal collection here. So outside of just being a really valuable game, it's actually just a really good game. So I think I'm always going to hold on to this one regardless of how many others I sell. I can still sell a lot of the bulk over there, but they're not really worth anything. Believe me, I've sold the ones that are worth stuff, but I still have 90% of the collection over there. I just sold the ones that are valuable, except for Little Samson and a couple others. Notably, I still have my copy of Jetsons. There's no way I'd ever, in all of my journeys, sell that. That was the first JZ NES review, back in the day. That was, I was so proud that I made this video. It was so good, and it still pretty much holds up today. I mean, the editing's a little shoddy and the sound effects and stuff, but I think the video, I'm very proud of the video because I put all this effort into it and it turned out really great. And that intro is still amazing. I wish I could remaster that and do that in the same fashion, but it'll never be as special as it was back then. You know, I shouldn't remake something that already is great. So, yeah, that's another one of my favorites. I got this really early on, and this one means a lot to me. Jetsons there. I'm sure I missed a couple, like when I was pulling games out. I just kind of pull some games out at random. Like my favorite NES game, probably like a lot of people's, is The Legend of Zelda, the original Legend of Zelda there. And as I talked about in my Mega Man 2 review, Mega Man 2 is another real big one that I really like. But Zelda's probably my favorite. There's some underrated ones, like one that me and my friend Mayab played through before he left, moved out, Princess Tomato there. That's one I always really liked. Notable story about the last game that I got for the collection. This is the very last game I got. Portland Retro Gaming Expo 2018. I got Miss Pac-Man there for $25. Actually, the last one I had to, like, really hunt and seek out. Like, Little Samson was there. It was this, Little Samson, and, something strategy game 2. It was, like, a really rare strategy game 2 that I ended up buying. I had to buy it complete in box, basically. Was how that one went down. So, but there was only one copy there, and I actually actually, let's find out. What was the name of that game? They'll tell us right here in the NES collection log. Oh, Batman, that's a good one. That's a good soundtrack. Never beat that one. Maybe we should do that for Jay-Z, or Jay-Z NES, MENES at some point. Nobunaga's Ambition 2 was there was only one copy of that entire convention, and it was in box, and I think I've since sold that because valuable, but you know, at the time I was very lucky and very fortunate to get that one. But the actual very last game that I left all that time was Miss Pac-Man. Now there is only, I think, Miss Pac-Man. I don't think there's a unlicensed Miss Pac-Man. I actually think there might be, but I only have this one unlicensed, which is also kind of a, it's not an unlicensed game, but it's a licensed Tengen cart, which there's only 3 of that are, like, officially licensed. It's this one, and Gauntlet, and, like, one other one. But also there's the Namco versions, which I just kind of always passed up because I knew they weren't that rare. So it just kind of boiled down to Miss Pac-Man being the last one there. So I wanted to tell that story. And of course you've got your classic underrated Jay-Z NES titles. I mean, I know Crystallis never actually got a video, but that was always the third unofficial Jay-Z NES video that I was going to make down the line, was Crystallis. So maybe I should review that at some point. It won't be the same, but you know. And then of course Fire and Ice, the second one there. I just put this piece of paper in there. You know why I put this piece of paper in there? Because it's sitting next to those fucking Fisher-Price games. So I didn't want it to be tainted by the germs of, I Can Remember or whatever. I even made that joke in the video. That's such a funny video, that first part anyway, because that joke is so quality. It's a little cringy, but I love it. I think it's so funny. I always get a good laugh out of that one. So yeah, anyway, you know, and then of course you got your classic Mario games, and honestly, A Boy and His Blob was also one that was one I considered starting with Jay-Z NES. Like, that was before Jay-Z NES was a thing. I thought A Boy and His Blob would make for a good review, so I was gonna do that at one point, and then I just kind of never got around to it. So but I've reviewed that since, and Journey to Silius, which I haven't. Oh, I did review Journey to Silius, yeah, and I did that whole podcast about it. Okay, I did review this one. That was actually this year, right? I think, like, I'm gonna say more recently, but that was, like, summer or something, so, like, shows you how time flies. I need to review Crystalis, but other than those, I don't know, I just wanted to show some of my favorite NES games. Let's talk about the movie now. So, this epic quest to grab every 30, all of the 678 NES games in 30 days, and it's like, I remember the premise. Like I said, it blew my mind that somebody was actually making this film when it came out, and I watched it, and I was, really happy with the end result. I thought it was great. It's a great film. It, has a nice, like, nostalgic quality to it now, but, like, also, because of, like, my game collecting days, I don't really collect games anymore for the most part, but that's mostly because I have all of the games that I want now, it's like, I don't really need any more games except for newer games that are coming out that are, like, collections of old games, like, one I want now is, like, Pikmin 1 and 2, the physical Switch collection or whatever, and, like, the Metal Gear collection and stuff. It's like collections of old games that, that we're re-releasing now. There's new games too sometimes, occasionally, that come out that I care enough about to play, like Breath of the Wild or the sequel, Tears of the Kingdom, or, like the Pokemon games, I guess. Like, it's gonna depend. I haven't even played the DLCs for the newest game, the Scarlet and Violet there, so they released another Legends game, maybe I'll play it. But I'm not that much of a modern gamer. I've always been a classic gamer. It's in my name there, the MENES, it's the NES part. It's a system that means a lot to me. And it means a lot to these guys, Jay and Rob there, who made the movie. And I got my copy signed. I haven't ever met these guys in person, but you can see it signed there. For the physical edition. I got that, like, on Kickstarter or whatever I think it was Kickstarter that they did there, and I've got a physical cassette tape of the soundtrack, and everyone always gave me shit about that. They're like, why would you get a cassette tape? You don't even have a cassette player. And it's like, well, fuck you. It's cool. Why not get a cassette tape? It's cool. That's why. So, but so I really loved the movie, and I loved the premise of the movie, and I was so excited for it to come out, and there's so many good aspects of it, and I don't really want to spoil the movie, but I think it has a really good and emotional ending, and it's very satisfying, and at the time I hadn't completed, I wasn't anywhere near completing my NES set yet, and I just thought that was really cool, and it was a really great dream to aspire to, because I had a lot of great times going out collecting games. Was it probably financially the best thing I should have been doing in my 20s? No, and in some ways I'm still paying for parts of that. I mean, not like specifically those debts, but like ghosts of those debts, So, at some level, I think it was definitely worth it, though. I mean, it was an experience, it was a journey to go on in my 20s, and something to aspire for, and it showed me that I could, shoot for the stars and accomplish things, and now it doesn't, not that it doesn't mean anything to me, because it absolutely does. I mean, those were really great journeys, really great memories with my friends, and conventions we went to and stuff, and, but it's just kind of past me now, that's in the past. I still love video games, obviously. I have a whole channel dedicated to it, but, the game hunting aspect, I mean, I do miss it sometimes, it is fun to go around look around in games, but you know, now it's like I'll go look at NES games and I'll be like, oh, that's a pretty good price, or oh, hey, they actually have that, you know, and it's like, I don't need it, but they have it, that's cool, you know, so. I have a lot of knowledge about the NES now, and I think it was very worth investing into. It's a great console with like so many great games, or so many unique games, or interesting games. Even the shitty ones have their fun aspects about them. You know, you can always have something to say about them, except for Taboo: The Sixth Sense. That game is garbage. That is so bad. It's so bad. It literally doesn't get to have a spot in my collection. It exists as a dust holder for my my Sharp NES TV there. It does not get to sit with the other games in the collection because it is not a game, you know? So, um, but, yeah, so, and actually, I even have a boxed Miracle piano sitting up there that I found for $80. It's pretty, like, the box is, like, water damaged, like, somewhat, but, like, it's still a pretty great condition box for $80. I don't think it was missing anything at the time. I don't know where, like, the cables went. I think they are around here somewhere, but I remember we were looking for them one time and we couldn't, like, figure out where they'd gone or whatever, so, um, but, yeah, so this documentary really encapsulates that time in my life, you know? And it's not only a great documentary to talk about the NES and collecting the NES, it talks about the history of the NES, the vibe that was going on around that time, how gamers felt about the NES, how it kind of affected the video game industry as a whole. You know, just all these like famous people like Walter Day and stuff get little cameos in there to talk about it, and like the extra footage on the other discs on like this version specifically, because it actually comes with like 3 discs. So you know, you see there, and then that's like the main movie there, and then the other are like the other discs there come with like a bunch of extras and stuff. And I think that he's like finally releasing those as like episodes on his channel or whatever, but I have most of that footage on like the original DVD there, if I remember correctly. It's all, maybe there's some new stuff in there, I don't know. But it's also a timely thing to be talking about this. Timely, I suppose. They did announce, like, I don't know, a few months back that they're gonna do an N64 quest, so I'm pumped for that too. Of course I'm gonna support that and definitely watch that whenever it comes out. That was more my friend Nick's game, the N64, and I did help him collect a lot of that back in the day. I wonder whatever became of that. I'll have to ask him at some point, but you know, at the end of the day, it comes down to, you know, as a collector, I really appreciate the concept of the movie. It's like, it's not only about, like, let's get all these games, it's about the journey, you know, it's about the adventure of that, and one man's quest to acquire all these games, and of course the games that mean something to him, too, like stadium events is a big part of the movie, and I don't really even consider that part of the main set, but some people do, and that's kind of the big thing, you know, is stadium events, and that's the big chunk of the movie, is him going back and forth on getting this game, because it's just going to cost him so much. And yeah, if I had had to pay for stadium events, I would have been in the same boat, you know? I felt that way about, like, stuff like Samson and, you know, of course, like, all the big ones like that. And they talk about all of those in the thing. That's another one that he's, like, constantly searching after, is Samson and Bonk's Adventure. And they always keep track on, like, the top 20, and just his journey to find all these games is really interesting, and they've edited it into such a way that it's like a really great story, you know, overall, and excuse me. Yeah, so it's a really exciting and fun adventure to watch, and then you also get some of the emotion and the feel of that time, that time period, the NES time period, some of that nostalgia too. For me, it's a nostalgia of 2015 when collecting these games and whatnot, showing this movie to my friends, that kind of thing, but also just nostalgia for like the NES being a really big part of my life, and it still is in a lot of ways, but a lot of times these days I'm not even really thinking about it, but it's always there in the background, kind of at the core of who I am as the NES. It's a big part of my history, and I didn't have that many Nintendo games back in the day. I was barely allowed to play the thing. My brother would always like hold it away from me because I don't know, the games were fickle and you would have to blow into them to make them work or something, and they were old. I was more of an N64, like PlayStation kind of kid, because that was what was hip growing up, or was like the last generation, so it was like the thing that we could get our hands on, basically, but like the NES was always super cool whenever I would get to play it, and all the emulation and stuff that I got to do back in the day, like that really cemented it for me, and like re-releases of NES games, and it's just like the classic platform launching the modern video game industry, the Atari and stuff is fine, it's cool, but like NES is really the jumping off point, and that's why it's so significant. And this movie captures a lot of that, and a lot of that significance, and a lot of just that vibe of game collecting, and finding that rare game and getting excited about finding that rare game, it's like it's always cool. It's always that rush, that vibe, and this definitely captures that. And like I said, it makes me nostalgic for a different era. Like Nintendo used to be my whole life, like that game collecting and stuff, and in a lot of ways it was like kind of a sad existence, but it was what I held on to back then, and it got me through, and it was definitely a hobby that cost me a lot of money, but I guess I wouldn't have traded it for the world, because it's where I needed to be at that point, and it got me to today. So I love the NES. I love this film because it definitely touches on a lot of that. And for serious collectors of the NES, I mean, I'm sure you've seen this film, but if you haven't, it's a great journey over the 30 days. The tension, the ticking clock in the background is always there to loom in the distance, be the real final boss, as the guy says in there. And there's a lot of good little life stuff in here too. So I mean, I think it's a great film. I mean, I'm like 10 out of 10 on it. And maybe I talked about it a little light, but I mean, I wouldn't want to spoil it, I just want you to go in and watch it for yourself, because it's a great movie. And it's only like an hour and a half long. I mean, that's the brief, thing. And for like a few guys, it's like an indie film kind of thing. Like, it's really impressive, I think. I mean, who else did it? Who else went out in 30 days and got like every NES game, or even got close to that? Like fucking show me the person, so it's crazy. It's crazy. It's a good experience. Great movie. 10 out of 10. Would NES Quest again. So until next time, this has been Emmy NES saying keep it classic. Stick around for more reviews, underrated games, movies, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Emily